Ora, bom dia a todos. Vamos então dar início ao nosso terceiro dia de Ciência 2023 e teremos esta primeira sessão plenária sobre cooperação e eu ia chamar a nossa colega Maria João Bibiano da Universidade do Alargado, que irá fazer as honras da casa, a moderação, a abertura, etc. Maria João, por favor.
Muito obrigada. Bom dia a toda a gente. Good morning, everybody, and those who are here and those who are online. We have one of our members of the panel online, and we are going to deal with cooperation. And cooperation is very, very important in what concerns the ocean, because we need to cooperate to assess the state of the ocean as a whole, and then also to share data, to share research ships. And on this panel, we are going to have a cooperation at different levels, the whole ocean cooperation, and certain regional areas, like the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, and also some particular programs relating with NGOs and the development of certain skills. But in the beginning, I would like to share with you the big cooperation that's going on these days. And I would like to ask if you can put my presentation. And I'd like to ask the audience, how many of you have already heard about the regular process? As usual. So this is a program, probably the most important program for the assessment of the state of the marine environment, including socioeconomic aspects. So this is a program of the United Nations, and I would like to explain a little bit to you what's going on, and also try to share more people to do that, to join us. So the rationale of this project, this is a program of the United Nations that is guided by the Convention on the Law of the Sea and other international agreements, and is accountable directly to the United Nations General Assembly. So this is important. And the aim of the project is to review the state of the marine environment, including socio-economic aspects. I'd like to stress that because we need a lot of experts on this area, and in a continuous and systematic basis. So this is a continuous project, and the aim is to contribute to increase the scientific assessment and improve the relationship between science and policy making. So this process, which only here 3 people heard about, started in 2002 in the Summit of the Sustainable Development in South Africa. And as a United Nations program, as you know, these things take time. You heard probably the agreement of Bibi and Jota that took 14 years. So this one also took time. And there was a preparatory commission set up, and the first World Ocean Assessment only appeared in 2014. So then we have the second one, which started in 2016 and was presented in 2021 online due to COVID by the Secretary General of the United Nations. And now we are in the third cycle, and we have to deliver these by 2025. And this 2025 is half the period of the decade for the scientific development, and because of that, we are working back to back with them in cooperation in order to join efforts, and also with other United Nations related agencies of the oceans. So how does it work? So the General Assembly, this is reported directly to the General Assembly, and because the General Assembly only meets once a year, they established what is called an ad hoc working group of the whole, where 193 countries belong, and has two coordinators, one from a developed country and one for a developing country. And the present are Norway and Honduras coordinating. And then this group, because it's too big, they establish a bureau, and this bureau is only 15 members, which normally meets regularly to decide what's going on. But the responsibles for this report are the group of experts, and this group of experts are 25 people, and I will show you in a minute what it is. And I would like to point out here the pool of experts. The 25 people cannot do this whole report, so they need a lot of colleagues to help them out. And in the the pool of experts nowadays has around 800 people, 30 Portuguese so far. We are organizing to double it and probably see if you have some experts on certain areas. And the secretariat is made by the United Nations Division of the Law of the Sea. And because this is new, we also have intergovernmental organizations, and we have national and international focal points. So for Portugal, we have a merging issue, and the focal point is the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs and the Foundation of Science and Technology. So they are the focal points for this project. So if you want to do that, to know a little bit more, you can ask myself or ask Sophia or his team, because they are in charge of all this process. And now came this pool of experts. So we need, the countries propose the scientists to take part on these, but also the scientists can directly propose themselves directly in the site of the project, but then they have to be confirmed by the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs. So the group of experts is 25 people, 5 of each from the areas of the United Nations, which are now a little bit strange, because there's the African group, 5 from each country, not all the, 5 from each region, sorry, not all the regions have nominated experts. So the African, the Asia-Pacific states, the Latin American, the Eastern European states, and the Western European and other countries where we are included, where the European countries, Australia, Canada, United States, and New Zealand belongs. And the present coordinators of this group are Karen Evers from Australia and Roberto de Pinho from Brazil. And there's someone missing there, which is from Malta, was replaced already. And I have the honor to be a member of this, which has been a big challenge in my scientific life. So for those who didn't know anything about these, you have 2 reports. The first one is considered the baseline of the ocean. And when it was presented in 2014, already the Secretary General of the United Nations pointed out that the carrying capacity of the ocean was near its limit, and it was urgent to global scale and protect the ocean. This is 900 pages, and there were 645 people collaborated here. And I'd like to point out that all these chapters are peer-reviewed and are also reviewed by the countries in the end. So the second one, if this one was 900 pages, this one was 2 volumes, and which is in a way some criticism, All of these are available online. This one is on the 6 languages of the United Nations, but when it was presented in 2021, Antonio Guterres stated that the situation has not improved. So we must work together in cooperation, here we are, to improve the management of the ocean. And now we are here on the 2021 to 2025 World Ocean Assessment. At the same time, there's some policy briefs came out from the second World Ocean Assessment. One of them on climate change, which we've been discussed here since the beginning. The other was on biodiversity, and the other one on the SDG 14 that we also have here. And the last one is the link between the World Ocean Assessment and the 2 decades, the decade of science for sustainable development and the decade from biodiversity. We were lucky to have a EA grant to try to translate that. And there are 5 videos, infographics available to explain what the second World Ocean Assessment is. And these videos were already set out related to the societal outcomes. So understanding the ocean, cleaning up the ocean, biological resources, sustainable economic use of the ocean and ocean governments. And these videos have been presented in the General Assembly of the IOC, which Luis Pinheiro, which you've seen yesterday, bring them there, and they were on display during the meeting. So what about the World Ocean Assessment 3? This is important because there are people here on the room that are going to be involved, and there's going to be this is going to be a totally different approach from the other 2. And there are some cross-cutting issues on all the chapters, which is relating to the ocean economy, gender, coastal development, and indigenous knowledge. So this is going to be complicated to integrate that in all. But the report will have a summary, executive summary as the other, an update of some chapters of World Ocean Assessment 2, and 2 main areas, and I will explain that in a few minutes, that are the sustainable economy and One Health. And to fulfill this report, it was decided that we need 216 different areas of expertise. So I think we should think a little bit here about, because we've been trying to have as much as Portuguese people involved, but there are a lot of areas of expertise on the list of the law of the division on the law of the sea that are not available, or at least we don't know in Portugal. So we have to discuss where to go in different areas of the ocean, because we are too concentrated in biological part. So to have a few ideas, the only thing that's going to be published on the third World Ocean Assessment is this executive summary. Then all these things that are going to be the whole are going to be web-paged. This is also a challenge because this is the first time. So the socioeconomic component relating to blue economy, and you have here fishing, energy, tourism, desalinization, marine energy, and so forth, and geoengineering. And then the One Health component is role of the carbon balance, ocean and human health, and especially equity, governance, which we discussed here yesterday, human well-being, gender. We need to have an idea how is the gender in all aspects in Portugal. We know very little about this, the impact of COVID in the ocean, and so forth. And all of these have to have regional scales of the ocean. So the message here is that those who think might contribute could either contact FCT or also in the areas, or also propose themselves, but we have to know exactly have already 30 more people to join our pool of experts. But one of the things that we'll be aware, being in the pool of experts doesn't mean that you are going to contribute. It will depend on the coordinator of each chapter, and also sometimes you have to be very careful how to fulfill the forms. Because we had cases where people were expert in all areas and no one will believe that. So you have to restrict your main areas, because being expert in all ocean areas is not very common. So for those who want to have some more information or download the reports, there are the information about the sites that you can use to see what is the area that are interested in you and what are the information available. This year, we have this structure was already approved by the General Assembly, so in March. And in the meantime, we have been working in the several regions of the oceans doing workshops. And we had a workshop in Brazil, which was excellent. A workshop finished last week in Jamaica. And another one is going to be taking care in Seychelles. And then we are going to have one in Portugal, in Fundação in Oceanário, because Turkey proposed to do that workshop, but as you know, we had the earthquake, and they asked if Portugal would like to follow up, because Portugal has made a proposal. So, and another one is going to take, after Portugal, we're going to have another one in Singapore, and we're going to have a special, that might interest you, a special workshop funded by Germany on sustainable pathways. And all the results of all these workshops are going to be discussed in Paris by the end of the year. So in the meantime, people are going to be, the responsibles for each chapter are going to be decided, and then they will contact the people which are in the pool of experts. So we have until those who want to be involved in the workshop in Portugal need to register until the 24th of July, and then see they were selected or not, or if they want to come on their own. So thanks very much. And then after this information, which I need is very important, because this is the whole world ocean assessment, all the integrated capacities, we're going to carry on with, I would like to call on stage Sofia Cordeiro to give a presentation, but Sofia Cordeiro is from FCT. Let's see if... So Sofia Cordeiro is the coordinator of the Ocean Program of the Portuguese Foundation of Science and Technology, and she's involved since 2016 to maximize the dialogue among the different scientific communities that are part of the ocean transdisciplinary area, and supports the participation of Portugal in different international programs. And she's currently deeply involved in science diplomacy, which is something very important in the ocean area. And she coordinated the Anchor project of Horizon 2020, and I think Sofia is going to talk about this to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, and good morning to all of you. So the title of my presentation is in Portuguese, but in fact, I will make it in English. And as Professor said, I will be speaking about the All-Atlantic Ocean Research and Innovation Cooperation, which currently is supported by a coordination and support action that is the Anchor project. So as we all know, in order to sustainably use the ocean, We need collaboration, collaborative effort. We need science, technology, human resources, and we also need funding and innovation. So we need to understand what are we studying and what are we sustainably manage. We need capacity, technology, new ideas, ECOPs. We really need to bring a new way of looking to the issues in order we can advance with the solutions. We need youth, the youth generation, to be informed because they will be the leaders of tomorrow. New collaborative funding programs and co-design and co-implementation. We cannot say to others what they have to do. We really need to work with others in order to co-implement and get the co-ownership that it's needed. So we really need stakeholder collaboration at regional, national, and European and international level. So the All-Atlantic Ocean Research and Innovation Alliance is one of those cooperations at international level specific to the Atlantic Ocean. It has three main pillars: connect, act, and cooperate. And these are the main pillars that have also guided the work that we did at the Anchor project. It is a result of a science diplomacy effort that aims to contribute our knowledge on marine research and innovation for the sustainable use of the Atlantic Ocean for the benefit of us all, of the society. So it didn't start it from nothing. It didn't start it from it in fact started from conversations in events where people were networking, and then there was the idea to develop a cooperation that was at Atlantic level. So this cooperation really, in fact, started with the EU Maritime Strategy and its action plan in 2011, where international cooperation is clearly mentioned. Then we had the Galway Statement that was signed 10 years ago. In fact, this week, and I came from that event, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of this statement. These statements got together Canada, the US, and the European Union in order to promote common actions to sustainable use the Atlantic Ocean. Then it was realized, well, the Atlantic Ocean has no barrier, so we cannot be working in the north of the Atlantic without being working in the south. So the Belém Statement was also signed. It was signed here in Belém at the Torre de Belém in 2017, and it has been quite supported by Portugal, has been signed by the European Union, Brazil, and South Africa. And it is in this Belém Declaration cooperation integrated in the bigger framework that the Anchor project works. But of course, there are not only these countries in the Atlantic level, so new administrative arrangement starts to pop out. So we have administrative arrangement with Argentina, Cape Verde, and Morocco in 2020. Currently, and last year, all these countries have jointly signed the same declaration, which is quite important also to advance this cooperation, and it is called the All-Atlantic Declaration. It was signed last year, July, in Washington. So they are all now together. And what I like really a lot, you have a video for the cooperation, but what I really like a lot is that African saying that is, it's there. So if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And this is really the reality and it's the ambition of this all-Atlantic cooperation. And it is being supported by two CSAs. So the first one already ended. It was the Aurora. It ended in 2019. And the Anchor project that it really aims to build an all-Atlantic community. So this alliance in its 10 years has achieved quite a lot of results in these three pillars: connect, act, and cooperate. Now, today I will mention a bit what we have done in Anchor, and it's regarding the 6 All-Atlantic Joint Pilot Actions, and I will also mention the support we gave to the All-Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors, the All-Atlantic podcasts, and the All-Atlantic storytelling videos. And also the high-level fora. It is where we really get together as a family. Currently, we are Well, when we see each other, it's like those family reunions when you don't see people for quite a lot of time. So it's, oh, yeah, you are there, so nice to see you. So it's really, really that feeling of family that we already have after 10 years. And another thing, we are not inventing the wheel, okay? It's just maximizing what we already have, building on existing initiatives, transforming the way we cooperate, but not inventing what is already there. It's maximize it. So the ENCO project, it started to support the implementation of the Belém statement, of course, making the bridge with the Galway statement, and it has 3 pillars, as I told you: connect, act, and cooperate. But in order we can really make a difference and build on what we already have, we need to know what we really have. So we have made 2 databases, all Atlantic databases. One database is here where you see the map, is a database on all Atlantic marine research and innovation initiatives that can contribute to this cooperation. And then on the other side, you have resources. So, you know, project deliverables, roadmaps, all of those things that can be important for this cooperation, there are in a single point, that it's the All Atlantic portal. In fact, this project is quite different from all others that are mainly scientific. This is really supporting something much bigger than the project itself. And we haven't developed any website for the project, but it's really a website for the Alliance. So if you go to the portal, I will show the link in some minutes, and it's there, in fact. You will not see anything about the Anchor project. We are just a tool to something much bigger. So the joint pilot actions, these are in fact the main activities of the project. And what I found more interesting is that the stakeholders that are engaged, have co-designed and are co-implementing these joint activities, they are not beneficiaries of the project. If we really want a long-lasting cooperation, we really need to engage people out of the 4 or 5 years of the European projects. We need to engage this external capacity. So what we did, we developed, well, following some specific orientations from the signatories of the statements, where we had the identification of strategic objectives, operational objectives. We have engaged experts from 18 different countries at the Atlantic level. I engaged mainly with them at the beginning of the pandemic period, so it has been quite a lot of virtual meetings, as you may imagine. And then these experts came across with those existing initiatives that are on the map that I show you, and he identified gaps and needs in order to reach those strategic objectives and operational objectives that have been set at the highest level. And based on that, they co-designed joint proposals for joint activities and started to implement them. These activities, as I said, use external stakeholders from the project, and they focus 6 main areas. And 6 main areas are the capacity building, and for that we have AATP that you see there, training platform, All Atlantic Training Platform. Then we also have one specific to data sharing, AA Data 2030. One specific for sharing of infrastructures, AA Marinet. One specific for blue schools, and the importance of engaging and creating this awareness of ocean issues, it's the AA BSN, Blue Schools Network, and 2 thematic ones, AA ATIP, that focus on aquaculture and aims to build an all-Atlantic network for aquaculture, and a biotech MAR that focus on biotechnology. So this pilot action started following a co-design process in all Atlantic platforms, and they have been selected at the end of 2022, and they started to implement their activities at the beginning of 2021, meaning that they just have 2 years old in the middle of a pandemic period, and I really think they have achieved quite a lot with very few funds from the project, but a huge investment from the institution side. So the time that each of these experts dedicated to the implementation of these activities, it's time that the institutions are putting on this cooperation. The project has just provided the payments of some travels, caterings, some things that are not easy justifiable if you don't have that line of action already existing in the cooperation or in the institutions. All of these follow top-down ambitions, stakeholders co-design, and most importantly, that is the basis of this cooperation: co-ownership, co-responsibility, co-property, and co-implementation. So here are the results. I will not go much in depth in the result of the joint pilot actions. I just want to give you a flavor of what are the main outcomes that we have. So we have, they implemented a case study for infrastructure sharing at the Atlantic level, here with the support of IH, the Hydrographical Institute, so thank you very much. They have also developed several strategic documents, roadmaps, plans, guidelines for cooperation, for sharing of infrastructures, recommendations on how to promote cooperation in the Arctic, the polar regions, the Arctic and the Antarctic communities, synergies. So I said that we need to engage what we already have. And in these 2 years, these initiatives have promoted synergies with quite a lot of existing institutions and initiatives along and across the Atlantic Ocean, and also promoted synergies also with research infrastructures, of course, mainly in that pilot action that is related to infrastructure sharing, and have contributed to quite a lot of national, international, and European strategies. At the national level, we have the Portuguese National Sea Strategy, where mainly through the contribution through the Blue Schools. Regarding all Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors, as I say, we really need to engage our early professionals in the ocean. So we have supported 26 ambassadors from 20 countries, plus 12 mentors from the previous cohort. There have been already 2 cohorts of ocean youth ambassadors, and they had the opportunity to participate in many trainings, seminars, events, and other activities, giving them tools and contacts in order to become drivers in their community and really promote change. They have been really active, of course not all of them, but some of them have been really active and really contributing, for example, yesterday in the event that celebrated the 10 years of this cooperation. But we cannot only speak to ourselves and to our community. We need to speak louder and engage the civil society. So we have promoted All Atlantic Talk podcasts. They are available in Spotify, and they explore collaboration efforts around the Alliance key priority themes, as well as worked on All Atlantic Stories. And we invited, in fact, it was a competition, with some experts. So some experts have applied, and they have told in a storytelling way, easy way, what are their research about. And these are also available in YouTube. So finally, all the forums where we get together the community, policymakers, scientists, and now we are also trying to bring industry and the civil society with us. Next high-level event will take place in South Africa, and yesterday we knew it will be on the 20th and the 21st of November this year in Cape Town. In terms of overall impact, I might be almost running out of time, so I will not really read what is here, but it is mainly through the community that we are building. As I said, we are family now, and we're really enhancing cooperation at an effective and practical level with many activities that now need to be aligned, now need to be scaled up, but the seed is there, and we have contributed to capacity building, data sharing, sharing of infrastructures, and many others which are really crucial to sustainably manage our ocean. And that's it, so thank you very much.
Nice presentation on the Atlantic. And now I would like to call Estrela Matilde, and I'm sure you're going to be like this presentation. Stella Matilde is the Executive Director of the Foundation Conservation NGO that's based in the Principal Island, which works to protect and conserve the natural heritage of the island while enhancing economic and social development of local communities. And Stella has won the Terre des Femmes Award from the Yves Rocher Foundation, and more recently the most prestigious award of conservation, the Whitley Award for her work on the Principal Island. So I think we all are going to like to hear Stella. Stella, please.
Thank you so much. First, obviously, it's a pleasure to be here today, but I cannot stop feeling a little bit out of my league. A fish out of the ocean, you might say. And that's because I do not see myself as a scientist. I see myself as a very, very lucky conservationist, as you can see, because I can work and live in one of the most amazing places in the world. And when I first realized that I was not a scientist was when I first arrived on Príncipe 11 years ago, more or less. I had the chance and the privilege to work with these amazing scientists that were so excited to be there, finding new species, because Príncipe is that ridiculous. Every rock you kick, you will find a new species. And everybody's so excited. And I remember very clearly with them just finding this frog and thinking that it could be genetically different from the one in São Tomé Island. And we're so excited about it, like in Disneyland. And I was not that excited about it. I was wondering myself, okay, and then what? How many frogs are they? Are they disappearing? Are people killing it? And yes, why? So, but nobody else was doing that questions. And at that moment, I realized that I was not a scientist. I didn't care the name of that frog. I just want to protect it. At the same time, I was very privileged to work in an island where the regional government, because Príncipe is an autonomous region, chosen to have the environment and conservation as their flag. And because of that, Príncipe is recognized as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve since 2012. And I had the scientific community very excited about Príncipe because have the highest rate of endemic species by square kilometers in the world. And I have the political will, which is very, very rare, especially in a developing country. But they don't have the resources or the capacity. There was no middleman. And there was where we came from. Fundação Príncipe is my organization. We are a local conservation organization. We have a team of 64 people, more or less. 92%, actually 98%, we are now more. 98% are locals. And we work on the island to protect the island. And obviously, this happened. We need science. That comes through the international cooperation. We need the political cooperation. We need the local cooperation. And we really want to create and transform the future conservation leaders on the island because we believe that are the local people that are the best place to protect it. And what we want to do is protect the island, the biodiversity of the island, of course, but we also want to inspire the current and future generations, and we want to contribute to the social economic development of local communities. Príncipe is very special to me because I really see it as a life laboratory where we can try and pilot projects and show the world that is possible. It is possible to find a balance between man and nature. It is possible to implement projects that will promote the conservation of the biodiversity, which is such unique and rare, but also promote the social and economic development of communities. It is possible. So I see Príncipe as a model, a pilot, where we can show that it's possible and then everybody else will try elsewhere. And obviously, our work cannot happen without cooperation, without science. It is the base for our work. And the cooperation is important not only from donors, that are obviously essential for our work, but more importantly, from partners. Partners that help us with I would say it's the key and the pillar of our organization, which is the capacity building of our team. I always say that I'm working to become unemployed because I really want to wake up one day and say, they don't need me anymore, and I can, come back to my country. And I'm very happy to say that I'm almost there. I'm transforming the future leaders, and I have an amazing organization of people that are today the conservation leaders, and they didn't have a chance to study, because for you to have an idea, only in 2012, we had the 12th grade of secondary school on the island. Before that, you couldn't finish high school there. You have to go to the other island. So, of course, you need money, and not everybody could do it. And I have one of the most brilliant people in the world. I have brilliant biologists that only have 8th grade of the school. They couldn't study more, but they know more than much other biologists in the world. And I have the first woman in the country with the diving course. I had such inspiring group of people, and they are the ones that are going to be protecting the island. And my work is basically just give them the tools for that to happen. And cooperation, international, national, regional cooperation is essential for that to happen. So you can go to our website and see a little bit about our work, because we really have a lot of projects going on. But basically, we have 3 big programs. We have a terrestrial conservation program, a marine conservation program, and a community engagement program that basically link the other two programs. Just to give you a little examples of the results of some of the cooperations. This is the vid, is now today one of the biggest, if not the biggest, botanicists in the country. He has species named after, with him as a first author, and is now finished high school. He only have the 10th grade. We had the cooperation with the University of Coimbra, the Missouri Botanical Garden. We found 10 new species of trees for science. Is that ridiculous, the island? And so much is being done, and we are now working to protect some of these endemic species, especially the São Tomé and Príncipe peach tree, with this peach that you see there, that is the only endemic fruit we have in the country. Also in the terrestrial side, we are working with a gigantic land snail, and was with international cooperation, national cooperation, that we unfortunately realized that this snail that was months ago was vulnerable is now endangered and is disappearing. So, and with our team in the field, with the capacity to do monitoring protocols, to understand and work with the communities, we need also the cooperation and the scientific community to help us really achieve these results. And now we are the ones in the field implementing conservation measures to protect this species. Also the beautiful Príncipe thrush, which is an endemic bird that only exists in Príncipe and is critically endangered. It's believed to be less than 200 individuals, and we are working as well with partners all over the world to protect this species. The recently found Príncipe owl, it is an endemic species to the island as well. And it was just found out a couple of years ago, and that happened because of cooperation. In the marine side, we work on Tinhosas Island, which are basically these rocks in the middle of the ocean, 40 kilometers south of Príncipe, and is the most important nesting site for marine birds in the Gulf of Guinea. It's basically a rock with 300,000 birds and an endemic lizard. And we go there 3 times a year to also monitoring the species. And our turtle project, which is the biggest project and the oldest one we have it since 2011. We have an intensive monitoring program and patrolling program on the islands. Every single beach is being patrolled at night. We have all the sea being patrolled by our team. And we want to achieve island that is a sanctuary for the sea turtles. The 5 species that exist in our waters, 4 of them are nesting, and the 4th one is a new thing. So we only had 3, and now I believe that we really improved our habitats for them to come. And we work with the children. I'm really sure that we brainwashed all the children on that island. For them, it's no longer acceptable to eat turtle. It's not part of their culture anymore. It's something they're already worried about hearing about. They don't care about turtles anymore. It's just there that they like to go and see them. So we really change a generation of future adults that no longer going to consume turtles. And we do that with the communities as well. We showing them that a live turtle is more worth it than a dead one, because a live one, they can sell it to the tourists up to 5 times during a season. And we do that with tourists that come and visit the nesting beach, and we give the money to the communities, the ones that are engaged, involved in conservation, so they see it, they can really make more money protecting it. Also, in terms of cooperation, and I say I'm repeating myself, but it's the theme today is that, and really we had amazing results because of cooperation. We work with international organizations that develop technology, and they use our team that receive training and capacity, and our turtles to test equipment. We also receive students from University of Algarve. We've been having some students doing their thesis with us. And the results of all of this is we are involved in a lot of papers, and we make sure that our team and our local team is there as authors, because we really believe that their knowledge and the work they do in the field is really important, even if they don't have the capacity to write an English paper. But one of the most important, if not the most important cooperation, is the one we have with the local communities. We couldn't work with that without them, and our mission is exactly that, is to, and I'm very privileged, and we are very privileged because we are in a 8,000 people island, so we can literally go door to door and talk with each single one of the people on the island and understand their problems, their concerns, their goals, and with them finding alternatives and finding ways of protecting the biodiversity, but at the same time giving the opportunities they need. And as a result, for example, we now had the first 6 marine protected areas approved in the country. The first 6 ones are on principle, and that was a result of a participatory work for more than 3 years. We started with the fishermen saying, I don't want marine protected areas, you just don't want us to fish. In the last assembly, they were the ones saying, no, I want to protect my bay, we need to protect this bay. And everybody on the island, every single stakeholder voted. The fish traders, the fishermen, everyone voted the areas they want to protect it, how they wanted to protect it. So it was a participatory process, and because of that, we are sure that the conservation, the monitoring, all the process that is now the second phase of the project is going to be successful because we involved the community. And they also understood that their opinion, their knowledge, it's valid and is really, really the most important one. And part of this strategy is obviously how we convince communities that they need to protect the habitats and the species. How do we do that? With them, we develop alternative livelihoods, conservation enterprise. We show them that there is ways of making money without harming the biodiversity. And you can see a lot of these examples are women, because obviously we understood very, very clearly that we need to bet on women, we need to invest on women to make sure that we invest in the next generation as well. So we developed alternative livelihoods with them, and this is their ideas. They come with us with business that are good for the biosphere, like collecting the flip-flops from the beach and doing jewelry, or collecting, recycling the glass bottles in jewelry as well, or doing menstrual pads, reusable pads, diapers, for example, or having the fishermen doing coconut soap, so they can have an alternative income and reduce suppression of their natural resources, doing handicraft with coconut as well. And more recently, because plastic is a problem globally, and is being a big problem for the island as well, we are supporting 5 new business ideas to transform plastic into things that are good for the communities, like kitchen board, tiles, bricks for construction. So we show communities and we support them in business that can benefit them, can improve the socio-economic development of their lives, but also protect the biodiversity and using resources that were not valued before. Come and visit us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Strela, for a very interesting presentation. And now we're going to call Christos Arvanitidis, which is from Greece. He's the research director of the Hellenic Center for Marine Research Institute of Marine Biology, Biotechnology, and Aquaculture. He was also a member of the pool of experts of the United Nations World Ocean Assessment, and he was in charge of the chapter Biodiversity. He's a member of different organizations, international organizations, and is coordinator of the LifeWatch project. So, now moving into the Mediterranean, Christos, the floor is yours, and you can share your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Professor. I'm trying to share my screen. It takes a while, I see, but we'll be there in a minute. I guess that now you all can see my screen.
Yes, go ahead.
In presentation mode, I believe now.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for the honor they make to us to present our infrastructure and to give a talk which is in the concept of this gathering. And I think that we are going, to give some successful examples of how research infrastructures cooperate and in fact, how they build their trading zones with other entities. And these trading zones are actually the collaborative interfaces through which we expect a lot of new knowledge and a lot of innovation to come up from. You know that as research infrastructures, we are legal entities like any other university and research center. We do not carry out research. We are facilitating those who are making research, primarily the researchers and the students, by providing facilities, resources, and services. So the concept of the research infrastructure is a kind of analogy of a power grid at a national scale, or of a network of roads, or of an opera theater, something like that there. Our vision for the long term is to become the research infrastructure providing access to the world's biodiversity content, services, and communities in one click. We can't do that alone, and that's why we have a very intense framework of cooperation and collaboration with other research infrastructure and global, let's say, aggregators such as the GBIF and OBIS and many others. Our mission for the next 5 years is to deliver the European state-of-the-art e-science infrastructure dedicated on biodiversity and ecosystem research. Now, we are proud that your country, Portugal, is member of this consortium, of this ERIC, whose the headquarters are in the neighborhood as well as the back end of this infrastructure. They are in Seville, Spain. The front end is in Lecce, in Italy. And finally, the Virtual Laboratories and Innovation Center is located in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. And on the top of that, we have as partnering countries, Belgium, Slovenia, Bulgaria, and Greece, and another country is on its way. We just got out of a first implementation cycle through which, it was till early 2022, through which we developed a prototype of such an infrastructure, e-science infrastructure. And the components, or if you like, the research resources, include many data sets, web services, virtual research environments, workflows, training resources, and research sites. But most importantly, we developed the cross-cutting technology. That means the technology that allows all of those resources that I was talking some seconds ago to be deployed and to start communicating and collaborating with each other. And so we have developed the eco-portal, which is our semantics repository. We have the metadata catalog for the discovery of our resources. We have the Tesseract, which is the software that builds workflows and virtual research environments. And I have to state here proudly that we are the first research infrastructure deploying blockchain technology, and this is our live block. I will come back to all of this in a minute. So over the first implementation period, What we did was to lay the foundations of this e-science infrastructure, but now we are on the path of its industrialization in order to deliver the complete infrastructure. And this is somehow depicted on this oversimplified and conceptual scheme, whereby at the bottom we have the data providers and the global aggregators that feed the data lake that we are developing. Then we have the layer of the core services. This is the vertical composability layer. So we're talking about services there like authentication and monitoring and help desk, etc. Then we have the integration services. Those are the cross-cutting technologies that I was talking a minute ago. On the top of that, we have an ecosystem of web services for the analysis of the data. And finally, quite a lot of web services for the conversion of the results of the research into knowledge. And of course, at the top of this, we have the users and our beneficiaries. Now, allow me to show you the collaborative framework through which we develop all these things. It's complex. It's not easy. But we have found, our way, and we are industrializing it right now. So I'm going to talk about the ARMS workflow. ARMS is this device here. ARMS stands for the Artificial Reef Monitoring System. So practically, is an array of plastic plates posed one on the top of the other, and we leave them in the water in interesting, let's say, places for a period of 6 or 12 or 24 months, and then we recover them, and then we observe visually the taxa that have been settled on those plates, and also we scrape everything. We put, the content in a very nice blender, and then we make a very nice juice, and we screen it genetically. So that's why, in this case, we come with these two workflows. The first one is the conventional community analysis. The second one is the metabarcoding community analysis. And now the most important collaborative effort starts. Because here, on the left side, we have the scientific community that identifies the steps of their hypothesis testing process. And on the right side, we have the computer engineers and the software engineers who ensure that indeed the web services which carry out all of those scientific steps on the web, and therefore they can deliver the results, and probably the results, obviously the results of the two workflows can be compared to each other. Now, if you allow me, just a final comment on this slide, the problems we encounter during this process were not scientific, definitely, because we had, very clearly defined problems. They were not, technological, because we have, quite a lot of access in technology, and we have, thanks to our partnering countries, a lot of means and ways to have access to technology. It was cultural. It was actually the different languages these two groups of the communities talk. And we spent quite a lot of time in order to start to understand what the other community would mean, with that term or with that term and with that term. And finally, the scientists said to the computer engineers, please treat us as stupid people. Talk to us very simply to understand what you are doing, and then we will tell you if this is okay or not okay. But, this relatively simple scheme, it is being converted into something like that in their mind. And this is, necessary in order for them to start deploying the web services into the platform and make it happen. But I will come back also with a video on this, so you will see, what is the result. And now it's about time, for a short video. you have long videos, 5 minutes each or something like that, but I will go, through the short one right now. I'm not sure, wait a minute. Yes, let me share my screen again. Okay. I'm sorry for this delay sometimes. You know how it is. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
And I suppose you see it in presentation mode, right? Okay, this is mylifewatch.eu, and through that I will present running a workflow like the ARMS. So you see here that the user can click on the metabarcoding, for example, workflow. The user can see the services and how they are connected to each other. By clicking the next button, he goes and he needs to give a name and describe the workflow, the new workflow, and then a map is coming up with the distribution of the genes in the various sampling areas. The data we have are stored in Zenodo. The user can zoom in or out and can select the genes, and then the user can upload the parameters to run the workflow. Clicking over there, the workflow is running, and the dashboard shows the screen by which the user can monitor how the workflow is running right now. When he clicks on that icon, then he has again the workflow, and those services ticked off means that they have finished. Those with the running man or woman means that they are in progress, and by going back, the user can find out when all of the web services have finished, and at this stage, the user can download actually the result, and he or she can view them. Here we have, for example, a non-metric multi-dimensional scaling plot, and this is the result. Now we're going, through the live log. So again, there is a dashboard through which the user can save his data or her data, duplicate them, even share them with others. There are a lot of searching opportunities here. For example, you see that we have already engaged a lot of international global aggregators. We choose, for example, GBIF. Now the technical people making fun with me, and they put my name. So this is the data set that I created during my PhD. So the user now can observe the metadata and can preview even the data. So we're talking about going in the data set and looking to the values. Now we have here an example of a semantic keyword search, whereby we have several filters by which the user can somehow limit the data he or she is looking for, and can have various results. Again, another search with a federated search on the term hedgehog, but this time the search is on all of the research infrastructures involved here, and therefore these are the results. And again, there might be another type of semantic structure research, which is based on 23 filters, 23 different fields, and now the query can become extremely complex. For example, we have the person, then we may have the taxon, then we may have the location, for example, in the same thing. And please note that the user can do that on the fly. And next to each of the fields of the terms, there is also a context. So the terms have a semantic context behind. And here is the Explorer and data traceability tool, whereby the user can see how many people have looked at his or her data set, download them. They made, probably other web services, etc. And here is our last component of the platform, mylifewatch.eu, where the user can come up on a page like this. He has definitely on the left side a dashboard whereby he can explore and use the workflows that we have developed. He can look, and discover data sets or any other type of resources in the blockchain. He can definitely look to the graph, which is built automatically and can produce a kind of network with the most relevant researchers or even research entities that the user is working on, and he or she may not even know about that. And definitely a lot of information on the resources that the user has used in the past, mapped on this tool, etc., etc. So I will stop here for the sake of time, and I will go again back to our presentation. So this is the presentation. Fine. Again, share the screen. Hang on. I will share the screen again.
Chris, we are running a little bit out of time. We can have 2 more minutes.
Yeah. This is more than enough. But I can't share my screen. That's my problem. Okay, it's coming now. So this is the kind of opportunities and options LifeWatch ERIC infrastructure provides as the potential for collaboration and cooperation with other infrastructures and the scientific communities. Please note here the high-performance computer resources, access to disruptive technology, individual working space or collaborative working space, such as with mylifewatch.eu. Here is a case like this in which LifeWatch ERIC is collaborating with many other infrastructures, some of them the global aggregators in the context of the bicycle project. This is a European Union funded project, and we are creating the Biodiversity Knowledge Hub, and this is our last collaboration with all the science clusters in the framework of the EOSC Future project, in which we are trying to develop a collaborative environment for the collaboration of the clusters. So we're talking about multidisciplinary research, even from different domains. And with this, I would like to thank you again, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, Christos, thanks very much. We are a little... We are a little bit out of time, so I would like to ask the audience if the audience has any questions that want to put to the panel before... No. No questions? So if not, I can ask myself here to the panelists, and especially here to Sophia. How do you see the cooperation, the development of science policy in the Atlantic, in all the Atlantic area, because this might be an important project?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the question. In fact, science policy interface is already embedded in this all-Atlantic cooperation. The cooperation is very linked, it links very easily the policy side, those that have signed the agreements and can change the instruments and create the policies that are needed to change the instruments, and those that are already implementing the science that is needed, the networks that are needed, the transdisciplinary and cross-cutting also activities. So I think that for the Atlantic Cooperation, I see it already embedded in the work that we are doing. And in fact, these annual forums, they are more or less annual, they really showed that it is very easy to engage and to see the results of this interface really working effectively and transforming the wishes and the ambitions of our policymakers towards implementations for our scientists and from our sciences results going back and up to the policymakers.
And Stella, how do you see more or less the same thing with your NGO? So are you able to translate all the work you're doing to the policymakers?
Yes, I think it's because we are an autonomous region, so we have our own government and legislation as well, and we work so closely with the government that we've been able to support them and the creation of a legal framework to protect, now with the marine protected areas, for example, we just did that. We support the government approving regionally the first MPAs. We help the government create a law to protect the bees, for example, the turtle law as well. So we kind of see ourselves and that power as well to support the authorities, give them the capacity as well, the resources that sometimes they don't have, making sure that we can have a legal framework.
And Christos, how's your interface responding to the science policy, our infrastructure, I mean?
Well, for us, and by us I mean primarily the Mediterranean Sea, we know very well that the channels certainly exist, as Sophia said a minute ago, and they exist since long ago, along with the networks, etc. But I think that the investment should be towards intensifying collaboration and cooperation and above all coordination among the national, the regional and the European projects and initiatives on this science policy interface. And I think that something else that could help tremendously is the engagement of the ESFRI and any other type of research infrastructure to provide the technology needed to accelerate this process, the process of coordination and cooperation. And finally, I think that something which is currently missing from the picture is the issue of the innovation, the issue of the new knowledge, and some kind of support there for the marketing and even the commercialization of the successful examples or products or resources that are being developed over the years. I mean, these things, these resources are valuable and they're dying after the end of the project, and we need to do something about that.
Okay, thank you. So, Sophia, you came back last night from the commemoration of the Galway Agreement, which commemorates 10 years. So how do you think the Galway statement was important to the Atlantic research area?
Well, of course I'm biased, but I think it is really inspirational the way we work. It brought with it a sense of community that I haven't felt in any other process where I was engaged. Okay, I'm new, I know, but I already have some experience in the international area. But this Galway statement, it really promoted, it opened, I think, several doors in terms of connectivity, in terms of collaboration, and that was only possible because it was co-designed, and it was a very, very simple document. In fact, it has been mentioned on July the 4th, the first day of this commemoration, that because of it was so simple, flexible, and it allowed the co-design. It has been really a success and an inspirational change in the way we collaborate in the ocean. And as I said, based on co-ownership, co-implementation, and co-property. And that is the basis.
Thank you. So how about you, Stella? How do you see science improve your work in principle?
Well, as I said, it's been really essential for our work. Despite us being really concerned about how fast we are finding species or new species, but not be able to understand their current status of conservation, and us feeling this urgent state of we need to do something about it. It is the science and the scientists all over the world, because we have partners with all over the world internationally, that are giving us the tools and the capacity building of our team, which is essential for us, and is basically the base of the work we do. So it is being very essential and an opportunity to grow our team as well as future leaders.
Thank you. So, Christos, the Mediterranean Sea was one of the most threatened. So, what do you propose, and how can your infrastructure be used to improve the health of the Mediterranean Ocean?
Yes, thank you. It's not a question of a single infrastructure, actually, because that's impossible. As I said, we have to collaborate with many of the infrastructures and global aggregators. But I think that the first thing that we need to put a lot of effort is to improve the collaboration and cooperation between the European and the non-European countries. If we want this sea to be alive and productive and support our communities and our nations, then we need, to make sure that we are all walking towards the same direction. Well, of course, we have the European directives that the countries in the south, they don't have them, but somehow we need to have a kind of a common framework and work together. The second thing that we need to do is to stick to the targets of the European Union Green Deal and also the biodiversity strategy for 2030. There is a lot there are a lot of tools there, starting from industry and going, down to the marine bioengineering, to approaches such as the restoration of the habitats. There are a lot of projects that are being, funded right now by the European Union. And finally, I think it's very important to involve the private sector in the industry and develop, if we can, common venture capital schemes between the public and the private sector to boost out the engagement, the vast engagement of the community in this. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. No matter, how many laws and how large the legislation becomes, if the community is not involved, I'm afraid that we're going to fail. And the only way is that one. Thank you.
Thank you. So we came to a close. So this session, we could see cooperation within an infrastructure, which is also important. We see also the cooperation between indigenous knowledge and an NGO development, and also a big Atlantic area, and some highlights about the global ocean assessment. So I would like to thank all the speakers for this session, and I would like to call on stage Admiral Marreiros, the director of the Geographic Institute.
Thank you very much. Dear Rector of the University of Aveiro, dear President of the Fundação de Ciência e Tecnologia, dear Commissary for this meeting of Science 2023, dear colleagues of this session, Thank you for your presentations. I'd like to congratulate you for your projects, and it make me willing to cooperate with you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, for the ones that are attending here, and also for the ones that are attending online, I salute everyone. And I'd like to say that I'm very honored for this invitation at this university for the 11th meeting of Science 2023. This meeting has the subject about the ocean. The science and ocean beyond the horizon. And this sentence is very appropriate for the Navy, because in the Navy, for the ones that stay and use the sea, for all the navigators, we use science and technology, and also we see the horizon beyond, we see the ocean beyond the horizon, at least compared with the ones that stay on shore. I have some notes written in Portuguese, so I'm going to improvise and translate into English. And I'm going to speak about the vision of the Hydrographic Institute as a state laboratory and also as a Navy institution concerning with cooperation for development of the science of the sea. The Hydrographic Institute, as I said, is a state laboratory, and the state laboratory is an institution that is used for the state to implement its politics. In this case, for the science of the sea. The Hydrographic Institute is not the only one devoted for the science of the sea. We cooperate, we have a lot of cooperation with another Portuguese institute, which is the Portuguese Institute for the Sea and Atmosphere. But the Hydrographic Institute was created in 1960. We are very proud to say that we inherited the old Portuguese tradition from the discoveries, 15th, 16th century, the old tradition in cartography, hydrography, oceanography that we have. And our mission, very summarized, is to contribute for others to use the sea in security, and also to contribute for the development, for the scientific and technological development of Portugal. This mission has huge responsibilities, either in the national framework and also in the international framework. We must be aligned with the main strategies currently underway concerning with the science of the sea. The main strategic dynamics for the investigation of the ocean are written at the United Nations Agenda 2030 for the sustainable development, also in the European Union Maritime Integrated Policy, and at the national level we use the guidelines for the National Strategy for the Sea for the decade 21-30. The challenges are huge, and I feel, my belief is that Portugal is in a position, presently in a very, very challenging position if we want to be an active player, an effective player in the science, in technologies of the ocean, in an international framework, and of course in the Atlantic Ocean. Which areas of the oceans represent challenges very demanding for the science, and new forms for acquisition and processing and sharing data must be developed. The amount of data is increasing every day in volume, complexity, and also interdisciplinarity. The dynamization of the science of the ocean should promote an open global observation system, and this system should be sustainable and open, as I said. There is opportunity to develop research in a perspective of cooperation, communication, and coordination. We should have a comprehensive approach for the oceanic systems. And also we should share our knowledge for applied knowledge, for applied research. Everything with the goal to allow the objective of sustainable development, support blue economy, to use the ocean resources for the economic growth, to increase the number of jobs, and preserve the health of the ecosystem environment. I'd like to say some words about maritime security. Of course, this development is only possible if we have security. The sea makes Portugal with strategical depth, reinforces our independence and our connectivity with other countries, and makes Portugal a relevant player in the main treaties, international treaties, such as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the European Union, and also the Community of Portuguese-spoken countries. For this exists the Navy. The Navy represents the state in the sea, and the Portuguese Navy has two functions, two rules, as a navy for the war and also as a coast guard. This is an holistic model for the use of the naval power that can be translated in the vision of the Navy Chief of Staff, an holistic Navy, ready, useful, focused, significative, and technological advanced. Technology and science is very important for the Navy. Only a technological advanced Navy will be ready and will be ready to overcome the challenges facing our future. Because of that, the Navy should execute and develop science. Science mainly related with the maritime environment, either in military operations, but also in oceanography, hydrography, cartography, and navigation. All these activities should be done in cooperation with the other institutions, for the development of the knowledge in a multidimensional way. The challenges for the Hydrographic Institute are many challenges. I'd like to highlight one of them. I'll start for the most important, which are the human resources. I believe the human resources are the most valuable one, and we face a lack of personnel and a lack of activity to acquire, to contract the most talented people, either military or civil personnel. This has been a huge preoccupation that we must solve because it has already impact in our mission and also in the development of new capacities. While equipments and systems we can acquire in the market in a short time, people takes time to train, to form, and especially personnel to go to the sea that should know how to stay on board, how to stay at the sea. And I believe that we have very competent personnel, very competent researchers and technicians in Portugal. I believe the universities are doing a good job, but it's very difficult to contract, and of course there are other jobs with more advantages. I'm not going to talk more about that, but it's a concern, and we should have to improve the offer for the admission and retain personnel on our institutes. Concerning with the platforms for investigation at the sea, such as ships and autonomous vehicles and buoys, we intend to increment this capacity. We intend to increment the surveys of our sea with better resolution, and we intend to provide more support to the scientific community. We have a capacity installed already for the monitorization of the economic exclusive zone, and this capacity is linked with the Center for Geospatial and Meteorological Geometok Center, which is located at the Hydrographic Institute. And this center can be seen as an example of scientific cooperation, for sharing data, models, and continue improving of methods. Concerning with cooperation with public institutions, universities, and private sector, it should be increased. We should increase the participation in research projects and sharing data, either geospatial data or technical scientific. We should increase technological development for the observation of the ocean. Presently, we are developing a new center for technologies for the observation of the ocean, which will be ready until the end of this year, with a capacity to operate autonomous vehicles and to use new sensors. This center will promote innovation, and it is also innovative in its orientation to attract the private sector, investigators to work there, to take advantage of our capacities, of our laboratories, platforms, to take advantage of our knowledge to develop new products and new opportunities of investment. To conclude, these are the main guidelines that I have for the development of the science of the sea in cooperation with other institutions. I firmly believe that only in scientific cooperation, only in teamwork will be possible to achieve our goals and to overcome the challenges. We should always consider the national security and science as complementary subjects for the scientific development and scientific and economic development of Portugal in a sustainable way. Thank you again for this invitation. Thank you for listening. Thank you.